The galaxy had seen wars that burned planets in a glass, but nothing had prepared it for what began on a small, forgotten world called E47. It wasn't a strategic planet, not even worth invading, yet it became the spark that changed everything. The first alien scouts landed at dawn. Their metallic boots pressed into the soft golden fields, weapons humming as they scanned for life. Their orders were simple: survey the planet and report. What they found instead was something that defied every rule of fear they had known. A little human girl stood alone near a rusty vehicle. Her hands held a half-empty carton of milk, her eyes wide, calm, and curious. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She simply watched them, as if the soldiers were strange animals wandering too close to her yard. Behind her stood a creature none of the aliens recognized, a small black-and-white beast, low to the ground, eyes sharp like blades. It made no sound, yet every instinct in the alien's body screamed to back away. The commander, a towering warrior named Vorthak, took one step closer. The beast's lips curled. The soldiers laughed nervously. A child and a small animal. That was their threat? They'd fought creatures that swallowed ships whole. But the feeling wouldn't leave Vorthak. It was as if the air itself whispered a warning. Do not test this one. The girl tilted her head, curious. You're not from here, she said softly. Her voice carried strangely in the wind, calm and steady. Vorthak tried to speak through his translator. We come in peace, he lied. Where are your parents, small one? She looked at the honey badger and then back at the aliens. You shouldn't be here, she said. Benny doesn't like strangers. The creature, Benny, stepped forward. Its claws sank into the soil. The alien scanners suddenly went red. Unknown life form detected. Energy levels unstable. Heart rate steady. Fear response none. The soldiers raised their rifles. One of them chuckled. It's just an animal. The honey badger moved. No one saw how. 1 second, the creature stood by the girl. The next, a soldier's armor was torn open, his weapon shredded. The sound that followed wasn't a roar. It was something worse. A low growl, rumbling with intent, pure and unfiltered. The others opened fire. Blue plasma bolts lit the air. Benny dodged, rolled, leapt. His claws ripped through armor like paper. Sparks flew, screams filled the field, and still the girl didn't move. She stood with her milk carton, eyes unblinking. Within seconds, the entire landing squad was down. Smoke curled above the grass. The only thing left standing was the girl, her honey badger, and the silent wind that now carried the scent of fear. Vorthak, bleeding from his shoulder, stared in disbelief. What is that thing?" he gasped. The girl walked toward him, her small shoes crunching on broken metal. "He's my friend," she said. "You hurt his home." Vorthak tried to crawl backward. "We didn't mean." Benny growled once. That was enough. Later, when the rescue ship came, all they found were claw marks, shredded armor, and one terrified commander mumbling the same word over and over. Human, child, honey badger. The story spread like wildfire through the fleet. Commanders laughed at first, a child and a small animal. But when Vorthak's footage leaked, the kind that made even hardened warlords go pale, no one laughed again. High Command ordered a containment mission. They sent in drones, armored troops, and orbiting ships. Every scanner focused on one spot, the coordinates where the girl was last seen. But she wasn't there. The heat signatures showed movement underground. A network of tunnels, dug impossibly fast. Something was watching them from below. Then the attacks began. One by one, patrols vanished. Cameras caught brief flashes. Metal torn apart. Soldiers dragged into the dark. Screams cut short. Whatever hunted them was small, fast, and merciless. One surviving drone captured a final image. The little girl standing beside her honey badger under a field of alien light. The creature's eyes glowed red. Behind them, alien ships hovered uncertainly, not daring to land. The footage ended with static and one chilling sentence spoken by a child's voice. "He doesn't like bullies." The galaxy took notice. The humans had always been unpredictable, but this was different. No technology, no army, Just a child and an animal that refused to fear. The Galactic Council demanded answers. Scientists studied the footage frame by frame. They analyzed the creature's biology and found it terrifyingly efficient. Dense muscles, bone-reinforced claws, immunity to most toxins, and a pain tolerance beyond reason. But the strangest thing was the connection. The creature obeyed no command, followed no order, yet it fought for the child as if her heartbeat were its own. Some called it symbiosis. Others whispered something older. Bond. The Council declared Earth a restricted zone. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. But curiosity is stronger than fear. Soon, mercenaries, scientists, and thrill-seekers began sneaking in, each wanting proof of the legend. Few returned. Those who did spoke of glowing eyes in the dark, of whispers in human tongue, of a badger that stalked machines like prey. On Earth, the girl still wandered the fields, quiet, calm, her companion beside her. The humans had left her there after the war, thinking she was lost. She wasn't lost. She was waiting. When night came, she looked at the stars. "They're coming back, Benny," she whispered. The creature growled softly, a sound that echoed like thunder over the empty plains. Somewhere above, in the cold vacuum of space, entire fleets hesitated before plotting a course toward Earth. They remembered the footage, the child's calm face, the creature's roar, the silence that followed. That was the first day the galaxy truly learned fear. The Galactic Council didn't believe legends. They believed data, reports, and cold numbers. But numbers began to vanish. Ships stopped answering transmissions. Patrols near Earth stopped reporting. Something was happening in that quiet blue system, and no one wanted to admit what they all felt: fear. Admiral Crix of the Veldar Dominion stood in front of a holographic map, his scaled hands trembling slightly. Entire squads had gone missing, their last transmissions full of static and distant growls. "It's impossible," his officer muttered. "A child and an animal cannot destroy a strike team." Crix's eyes narrowed, then explained the footage. The recording flickered to life, a soldier screaming, plasma fire lighting the grass, and then a blur, black and white, faster than sight. Armor ripped apart, then the little human child standing calmly in the smoke. "Stop it," Crix snapped. "Turn it off." Silence filled the command room. Even the machines seemed to hum quieter. The Admiral finally spoke. "If this is true, then we are not dealing with a child. We are dealing with a weapon." Far below, on Earth, that weapon was sitting in the grass with her honey badger. The girl, her name was Lena, was eating bread and watching the stars. Her companion, Benny, rested beside her, his breathing heavy and calm. Around them lay quiet fields and the remains of broken alien tech, now half buried in dirt. She was alone, but never lonely. The humans who once lived nearby had evacuated years ago, leaving her with Benny and the old farm. They had food, shelter, and the open sky. For Lena, that was enough. For Benny, every night was watch duty. But that peace was ending. Far above, new ships entered orbit, silent, cloaked, and far more dangerous. The Veldar had sent an entire research fleet to capture the anomaly. They didn't call her Lena. In their files, she was Subject 9H. When her landing pods touched down near the old fields, the air grew still. The animals fled. Even the wind seemed to hide. Lena fell at first. Her eyes lifted from stars. "They're here again," she whispered. Benny growled, his fur bristling. "Don't worry," she said, patting his head gently. "We'll tell them to leave." The first team moved in quietly, 12 armored soldiers, each trained for planetary combat. Their scanners picked up the farmhouse. Inside, one human life form, one unknown life form, no visible weapons. They advanced. Lena heard their steps before they even reached the door. She stood, small and calm, holding her flashlight. When the first alien entered, his weapon raised, he froze. The child's blue eyes glowed faintly in the reflection of his visor. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. Behind her, Benny stepped into the light. The soldiers aimed instantly. Command shouted through their helmets. Target locked. Engage. They never got the chance. The floor beneath them trembled. Benny lunged. Wood splintered, metal shrieked, screams filled the air. Plasma bolts tore through walls, lighting the night. Lena covered her ears, but didn't move. She'd seen this before. Outside, two aliens tried to retreat to the dropship. The ground erupted. Benny burst from the dirt beneath them, claws flashing, armor shredded in seconds. One tried to crawl away. The honey badger ignored him, turning instead toward the incoming reinforcements. By dawn, the landing site was nothing but smoke and twisted metal. High above, in orbit, the flagship received the last transmission. Static screams and a child's voice whispering, "Go home." Panic spread through the fleet. No one wanted to land. No one wanted to even stay in the same system. Crix ordered the fleet to withdraw temporarily. "We regroup," he said, hiding the tremor in his voice. "We study this. There must be a weakness." But word spread faster than he expected. Across the galactic net, whispers began. A human child had destroyed elite units. A beast from Earth had killed soldiers that no predator dared face. The story twisted, grew, and spread. Soon, entire colonies spoke of the child of fear and the beast of Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lena was repairing her fence. Her small hands tied wire, her boots muddy, her face calm. Benny lay nearby, watching the horizon. "They won't stop, will they?" she said softly. Benny's head lifted, eyes narrow. He didn't need to answer. The next wave came not from Veldar, but from a different species, the Craven. Cold, insectoid, and ruthless. They didn't believe in legends. They believed in trophies. Their leader, Skarn, announced, "We will capture the beast and bring it to the council alive. Let the galaxy see who truly rules fear." They landed with hundreds this time. Tanks, walkers, air drones. It was no invasion, it was extermination. Lena saw the ships burning through the sky. She stood quietly, the morning sun behind her. "They never learn," she said. Benny's growl deepened. The ships landed miles away, but the earth itself seemed to react. Trees shook. Dust rose. The Craven forces moved fast, confident. They spread scanners, set traps, built energy walls. They didn't see the small black and white blur moving through the shadows, faster than radar could follow. One by one, the traps went dead. The scanners cut to static. Then screams. Inside the command unit, Skarn slammed a fist on a console. "What's happening?" "Report." "Sir, it's the creature." "No, creatures, plural." "Impossible. There's only one." "No, sir, there's more." He froze. Benny wasn't alone anymore. The jungle had woken. Wolverines, badgers, and other earthborn predators, descendants of those left behind, had followed the sound of battle. They weren't trained, they weren't tamed, but they recognized one thing: a fight worth joining. The Craven screamed as the swarm hit. Metal met fury. By nightfall, the alien army was gone. When the smoke cleared, Lena walked through the wreckage, her hair shining in the pale light. Benny limped beside her, blood on his claws. She knelt and hugged him tightly. "You did good," she whispered. "You always do." Somewhere in the distance, a signal beacon blinked weakly. It sent one last transmission to the stars: "Do not come to Earth. Fear lives here." The galaxy tried to forget. Reports were sealed, data erased, witnesses silenced. But fear doesn't vanish, it spreads. Traitors whispered about a world where soldiers disappeared and machines screamed before dying. Commanders laughed in public, but locked their doors at night. On the far edge of known space, an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council gathered. Representatives of 20 species sat in a cold blue chamber, their faces grim. At the center, Admiral Crick stood again, pale under the lights. "We lost 2 fleets," he said quietly. "Not to an army, to a child, and a creature from Earth." Murmurs filled the chamber. A scaled delegate slammed the table. "Lies. No human child can destroy fleets." Crix looked at him, then explained the silence from every unit sent to capture her. He pressed a control, and the chamber filled with holograms, wrecked ships, shredded armor, dead scanners. "This is not myth. It's reality." A tall, crystalline being leaned forward. If this continues, trade routes will collapse. Fear spreads faster than war. We must act. They decided to send not an army, but a scientist. Someone who didn't believe in fear. Someone who could reason. Dr. Erix Vela of the Meladin Research Corps was chosen. He believed logic could explain anything. Monsters were just biology. Legends were mistakes in translation. He volunteered to go alone. When his ship descended toward Earth, he expected radiation, chaos, primitive ruins. Instead, he found quiet fields, golden light, and a strange peace that made him uneasy. His craft landed near what used to be a farm. Scanners detected one human life form and several unknown signatures, moving but not hostile. He stepped out carefully, scanning the air. "Human child," he called, his translator soft. "I wish to speak." No answer, only wind and birds. Then a voice, small but clear, "You shouldn't be here." He turned. A little girl stood beside a broken fence, holding a stick in one hand, her hair tied in messy braids. Beside her stood the black and white creature. Its eyes locked onto him with unblinking focus. Erix forced a calm tone. "I mean no harm. My name is Erix. I study living things. I only wish to understand you." The girl blinked. "Understand me?" "Yes," he said. "You and your companion. You've caused great concern across the stars." The honey badger growled softly. Lena tilted her head. "We didn't do anything. They came here. They tried to take us." Erix nodded slowly. "That may be true, but what you did to them? How did you do it?" Lena's eyes darkened. "We just wanted to be left alone." The wind carried silence. Erix crouched slowly, scanning the creature. Its readings confused him. Cellular structure beyond known limits. Adrenaline levels stable. Regenerative capacity massive. He looked up, whispering incredible. The honey badger stepped forward. Erix froze. His translator recorded a low, vibrating growl that nearly broke the audio sensors. "It's all right," Lena said softly, placing her hand on Benny's head. The creature calmed instantly. Erix felt something impossible, a wave of emotional resonance. Not fear, not anger, connection. The link between them wasn't biological. It was something deeper, something no lab could create. He spoke gently. "You're bonded. Your mind and his, they share something." Lena shrugged. "He listens." I listen back. Before Erix could reply, the sky roared. 3 warships appeared from orbit, ignoring his signal beacons. The Craven were back, vengeful, reckless, certain they could finish what they started. Beams of light tore through the clouds, striking near the fields. Lena looked up, calm. "Benny." The creature growled. Erix backed away. "They'll kill you both. You must hide." Lena didn't move. "We don't hide anymore." The first drop pods landed with a hiss of steam. Soldiers spread out, armored and ready. They didn't see Erix waving frantically. "Stop. She's just, The commander fired. The beam hit the ground near Lena. Smoke and dust filled the air. For a heartbeat, everything went still. Then the sound began, a low, angry rumble that made the ground vibrate. Out of the smoke, Benny charged. He hit the front line like a storm. Claws ripped through armor. Energy shields shattered. Screams filled the valley. Plasma fire lit the fields in flashes of blue and red. The creature moved faster than any camera could follow. Pure fury wrapped in muscle and instinct. Erix stood frozen. He couldn't look away. "It's not just an animal," he whispered. "It's vengeance." Lena walked calmly through the chaos, eyes glowing faintly. When a soldier raised his weapon toward her, Benny was already there. One strike. Silence. Erix ran forward, shouting over the explosions. "Lena, stop this. You can end it." She turned to him, eyes shining with something he couldn't name. They started it. The ground erupted again. The Craven tanks exploded one by one. Smoke curled into the sky as the survivors ran back to their ships, screaming through the calms. "Abort! Abort! The Earth is alive." Within minutes, it was over. The battlefield fell silent except for crackling fires and Benny's heavy breathing. Erix approached carefully. His hand shook. "Lena, this power, you could destroy worlds." She looked down at the scorched soil. "I don't want to." But if they keep coming, we'll protect our home. Eric swallowed hard. You said we. There's more like you. Lena smiled faintly. You'll see soon. From the distant hills, shapes began to appear. Small, fast, shadowy. Not machines, animals. Packs of wolves, badgers, even bears moved silently across the fields, eyes glowing faintly blue. They surrounded the area, watching her, waiting. Eric stumbled back, awe and dread mixing in his chest. You've awakened the planet. She nodded. Benny taught them not to be afraid. For the first time in centuries, a Meladin scientist couldn't find a word. He simply whispered, "The galaxy will never believe this." Lena looked toward the stars. They don't have to believe it, she said. They'll feel it soon. The news of the Craven defeat hit the galactic net like a thunderclap. No one could explain it. No one wanted to believe it. And yet the proof was undeniable. Entire fleets reduced to silence. Battle recordings ending with a child's voice and the glare of a black and white creature. Every civilization with a fleet suddenly remembered what fear felt like. Worlds began locking their borders. Commanders ordered their ships to avoid the Sol system entirely. The Council's grand archives labeled Earth extreme hostile, do not engage. But even isolation couldn't erase curiosity. And fear always draws power. On the Council's central world, beneath glittering towers of glass and stone, the debate raged again. Admiral Crix stood at the podium, his voice cold. We cannot ignore this threat. We cannot let a single human and her beast dictate the future of our galaxy. Across the chamber, the crystalline ambassador spoke softly, her tone sharp as light. Threat or consequence? They did not invade you. You went to them. Another delegate hissed. The footage shows more than one creature. If this spreads, if the humans train others. They already are, said a voice from the shadows. All eyes turned. A tall figure stepped into the light. Dr. Eric's Vela, thinner now, his face pale, his eyes hollow. You sent me to study them, he said. I did. And now I tell you this. You can't control them. You can't fight them. The girl is no weapon. She's a signal. She woke something ancient. The room fell silent. Eric set a small cube on the table. The hologram projected a field of golden grass. The girl standing calmly beside her honey badger, surrounded by wolves, bears, and other creatures of Earth. But this time, something else shimmered faintly in the sky. Patterns of light, pulsing in rhythm with the girl's heartbeat. She communicates with the planet, Eric said quietly. Not through words, but emotion. The animals respond. Even the environment reacts to her presence. The Earth listens to her. Maybe it always did. Murmurs filled the air. Some called impossible. Others whispered, terrified. Then Crix slammed his clawed hand on the table. Enough. If the Earth listens, then we silence it. Prepare Operation Black Sunday. The human world dies before it infects the rest. Eric's voice broke. You'll destroy everything. You don't understand what you're provoking. But the Council had already decided. On Earth, the wind shifted. Lena was painting on an old piece of metal, soft humming under her breath. Benny rested nearby, eyes half closed. But then he stirred, nose twitching. The air carried the faint metallic scent of orbiting ships. Too many, too high. They're back, she said quietly. The sky darkened as hundreds of battleships entered Earth's orbit, their engines burning blue fire. From orbit, the view of the planet looked peaceful, too peaceful. The command ships formed a blockade, ready to strike. On the flagship, Crix watched through the observation deck. Begin atmospheric sweep, he ordered. No survivors. Thousands of plasma warheads began to descend through the clouds. But they never touched the ground. Something unseen met them halfway. Storms, winds, magnetic bursts that threw the projectiles off course. Lightning split the sky in impossible directions. Plasma bolts reversed mid-air, shattering into harmless light. On the ground, Lena stood at the edge of her field, eyes glowing faintly blue. They're hurting our sky, she whispered. Benny growled, low and steady. The earth itself seemed awake. The soil trembled beneath her feet, and deep cracks glowed faintly with white fire. From mountains and forests, creatures stirred, massive shapes that had been silent for centuries. Ancient life, older than humanity, answered her call. In orbit, alarm screamed. Massive energy surged from the surface, a technician shouted. It's not a weapon, it's the planet. Crix stared as the blue sphere below shimmered with strange auroras. What have they done? The answer came from the storm. Lightning struck the command ship. Once, twice. Then the entire fleet lost power. Systems blinked out, engines froze. Ships drifted helplessly, caught in a storm that wasn't natural anymore. Lena's voice echoed across every comm channel, calm and soft. Go home, please. But fear overrides reason. Crix snarled. Fire everything we have. Thousands of plasma cannons lit the dark. Their energy spears rained toward the planet, only to vanish mid-flight, swallowed by the shimmering glow now wrapping the atmosphere. From orbit, it looked like Earth had grown a halo. Down below, the honey badger stood beside Lena, fur glowing faintly with energy from the soil. Every heartbeat pulsed with the rhythm of the storm. The other animals gathered around her, silent, waiting. Benny looked up and gave a short, sharp growl. Lena nodded. Okay, she said quietly. Let's show them. A wave of pure light erupted from the ground. It wasn't fire. It wasn't plasma. It was energy that rippled like sound, traveling faster than sensors could track. Ships in orbit were thrown apart, their systems fried, their weapons melted. It wasn't destruction, it was rejection. Earth had said no. The fleet was gone in minutes. What remained was silence and drifting debris, burning like new stars in the upper sky. Lena stood under the quiet dawn. The wind returned, soft and warm. She looked at Benny, smiling tiredly. They won't listen, she said. Benny grunted, leaning his massive head against her arm. I know, she whispered, but we'll keep trying. Weeks later, fragments of the destroyed fleet were found near the moon of Turash 9. Every ship was empty, no bodies, no power signatures. The holes were etched with deep marks like claw patterns, but no oxygen traces, no external damage. It was as if something had reached into them and erased their purpose. The council met again, shaken and divided. Some demanded vengeance. Others argued for peace. Erix, now in exile, sent one last message before vanishing into the void. You cannot conquer what you don't understand. The Earth doesn't fight wars, it teaches lessons. But the galaxy rarely learns. Rumors began spreading again, of glowing shapes seen near distant planets, of small creatures tearing through research ships, of children appearing in alien colonies and vanishing without a trace. Whispers said the girl had left Earth. Some claimed to have seen her walking across the stars, always with the same creature beside her. No one could confirm it. No one dared to. What was certain was this: the galaxy had changed. The fear that began on one quiet planet had spread across empires. Armies that once crushed worlds now hesitated before every blue dot on a map. And somewhere, in the endless dark between the stars, a small voice spoke softly to her companion. They'll come again, Benny. But next time, they'll understand what fear really means. The creature's low growl rolled through the void like distant thunder. The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. After the destruction of Admiral Crix's fleet, every species pulled back, hiding behind treaties and fear. Even smugglers refused to go near Earth's sector. The legends had grown faster than the truth. Stories of a little human girl who spoke to storms, of a beast that could tear ships apart, and of a planet that fought back. Yet power always draws curiosity. In the dark corners of the Orion Rim, a secret alliance was forming. The survivors of several empires gathered in the shadow of a dying star, united by one idea: revenge. Their leader was a tall figure in black armor, his voice cold and bitter. They call her a child, he said to the assembly, but she humiliated us. The galaxy trembles at a human myth. That ends now. This was Lord Vrax of the Dominion Remnants, the only being who had survived direct contact with the honey badger's claws. His left arm was metal now. His pride was worse than the wound. We strike with precision. We don't attack Earth, we take her. We find the child. Without her, the beast is nothing. The plan was simple. They would use stealth ships coated in black plasma, invisible to most sensors, and land far from any human settlements. They would move silently, trap the child, and destroy her before she could summon the planet's rage. They didn't know that the planet was listening. On Earth, Lena sat by a riverbank, washing her hands in the cold water. Benny lay nearby, half asleep, the afternoon sun gleaming off his thick fur. Everything was peaceful, too peaceful. Then the wind shifted. The birds stopped singing. The water rippled in strange patterns. Lena raised her head. "They're coming again," she whispered. Benny's ears twitched. He rose slowly, muscles tight. His claws dug into the soil. The ships entered the atmosphere silently, their hulls dark against the clouds. They landed deep in a valley far from Lena's home. Vrax and his soldiers emerged, armored and ready. They carried pulse rifles designed for one purpose: biological annihilation. "Remember," Vrax said through his comms, "the creature dies last." They spread out, moving through the tall grass, guided by thermal scanners. The valley seemed empty, but one by one, their devices began to fail. "Static. Interference," a soldier whispered. "Sir, my scanner shows heat all around us." Vrax frowned. "Impossible. There's only one target." But the scanners weren't wrong. The earth around them was alive. Tiny heat signatures under the soil, in the trees, in the rocks. Eyes watching from every direction. Something moved in the grass. Small. Fast. A shriek followed. One soldier vanished into the tall weeds, his weapon clattering to the ground. Another turned, and something black and white tore through his armor before he could even scream. "Open fire!" Vrax roared. The valley erupted. Plasma beams scorched the ground, burning holes through the mist. But every flash revealed more movement, dozens of shapes darting between the shadows. Honey badgers, wolverines, wolves, all striking in perfect rhythm, silent and unstoppable. From a hill above the chaos, Lena watched. She didn't shout. She didn't run. She simply stood there, her hair whipping in the wind, her eyes glowing faint blue. Vrax saw her and raised his weapon. "There!" He fired. The beam split the air, but it curved away mid-flight, twisting like it hit invisible glass. The energy bent back and slammed into the ground, throwing him off balance. Lena's voice carried across the valley, calm and cold. "Why do you keep coming?" Vrax climbed to his feet, rage burning through his circuits. "Because fear must obey strength." "Then you don't understand it," she said. Benny stepped forward, his fur bristling, eyes burning like molten gold. The rest of the pack moved with him. The ground trembled under their charge. Vrax screamed for retreat, but it was already too late. His army broke. Machines exploded. Soldiers fell, and their screams faded into the rising roar of beasts and storm. Lena walked down the hill as the smoke thickened. The air shimmered with strange light again, the pulse that once destroyed fleets. But this time it wasn't wrath. It was something else, warning, final and merciful. The last few soldiers dropped their weapons. They didn't fight. They just stared at the girl who looked so small and yet carried the weight of a world in her eyes. "Please," one of them whispered, "we didn't know." Lena stopped in front of him. "Now you do." She raised her hand, and the storm faded. The wind went still. Benny's growl lowered to a calm rumble. The animals around them melted back into the shadows. The soldier trembled. What are you?" Lena thought for a long time before she answered. "Just human," she said quietly. "That's all we ever were." Far above, on the damaged flagship, Vrax crawled toward his command console, his armor smoking, his mind burning with rage. He activated his communicator and sent a final transmission across the galaxy. "To every species that hears this, humanity is not weak. The girl is their symbol, the beast their sword. Do not go to Earth. Do not anger them. Because when humans protect something, they don't stop." Then the transmission ended, cut short by the sound of claws scraping metal. Weeks passed. The galaxy shifted again. Armies pulled back. The fear that had once united the empires now became respect. Humans were no longer seen as prey. They were legend. But for Lena, there was no glory, no pride. She sat again by the river with Benny, her small hands resting on his thick fur. "They won't come for a while," she said softly. Benny blinked slowly, tired but content. "I wish they'd understand," she whispered. "We just want peace." Above them, the sunset burned in colors no artist could paint: gold, violet, crimson, reflections of all the storms that had passed. For the first time in months, the world felt quiet. But far away, in the deep black between stars, something ancient stirred. Not fear this time, not vengeance, but curiosity. A race older than the Council, silent for eons, had begun to watch. Their ships didn't shine, their signals didn't speak. They simply observed the small blue world that had frightened half the galaxy. And deep in that silence, one voice echoed through the stars. "She's ready." The galaxy had gone silent again, not from peace, but from the weight of realization. Every fleet that once marched to conquer Earth was gone. Every commander who sought revenge now whispered prayers to the void. The story of the little human girl and her honey badger had become more than a rumor. It was prophecy. Yet far beyond the reach of the Galactic Council, in the shadow of a dying star, something else had awakened. The Elithar Collective, the oldest known species in existence, had watched the chaos unfold. They had seen humans rise from dust and fire, turn against empires, and stand unbroken. Now, they wanted to understand why. The Elithar didn't use ships made of metal. They traveled in living vessels that pulsed like hearts. Their leader, the Archseer, spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through ancient stone. The child carries something that was never meant to be seen again. The planet responds to her as if she is part of its design. Their scholars studied the records. She is human, yet not ordinary. Her bond with the beast defies known science. The honey badger's DNA shows impossible adaptation. This is not mutation, it is intention. And so they sent a message. Not to the Council, not to any empire, but to Earth itself. It wasn't words. It was a pulse, a whisper through the stars that only one mind could hear. Lena woke suddenly that night. The air was still. Benny raised his head, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Did you hear it too?" she whispered. The voice in her mind was calm, patient, older than history. "Child of Earth, we wish to speak." She stood slowly, her heart steady. "Who are you?" "We are the ones who watched your kind grow from fire and chaos. We shaped the first breath of your world. You have awakened something that should never have slept." Benny growled low, sensing no malice, but something vast, something that made even him uneasy. "What did I do?" she asked. "You listened," the voice said. "The others only took. You gave. Your bond with this creature is the key. You reminded the Earth that it is alive." The wind began to move, carrying a soft hum. The ground beneath her feet pulsed faintly with light, like a heartbeat echoing through the soil. "Why do the others fear us?" she asked. "Because they forgot what fear truly means. They feared power, not purpose. You showed them that even small things, when bound by love and loyalty, can shake worlds." She looked down at Benny. "He's not just an animal." "No," the voice said gently. "He is what humanity forgot, its courage without cruelty. You are its mercy without weakness." The stars brightened. One of them moved, descending slowly through the clouds. A vast ship, or perhaps something beyond ships, settled silently over the valley. It glowed in shades of silver and blue, humming with quiet life. Lena didn't run. She stepped forward. Benny walked beside her, his fur rippling in the glow. The ground opened softly, revealing a smooth silver path leading upward. The air smelled of rain and old stone. "Are you taking me away?" she asked. "Not away," said the voice. "Forward. The galaxy must remember balance. You will remind them." She looked back at her small home, the broken fences, the wildflowers, the peaceful river where she'd played. "I'll come back," she whispered. Benny made a soft, rumbling sound. The ramp shimmered, and together they stepped into the light. Far across the galaxy, alarms began to sound. Every deep space array caught the same impossible signal, an energy wave moving faster than light, expanding in perfect harmony. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. Across every world, every ship, every species, a voice spoke, not through radios or translators, but through the mind. The humans are awake. Panic spread first, then awe. The Galactic Council tried to jam the signal. They couldn't. Empires tried to track its source. They failed. The message wasn't coming from Earth. It was coming from everywhere. Because Earth had shared its heartbeat. In the void of deep space, Lena stood within the living ship of the Elithar. Before her stretched a map of stars, glowing like veins of light. The Archseer appeared, a shimmering being of crystal and energy. "Child," he said, "you hold something more dangerous than war, the power to unite what we've spent eons dividing. What will you do with it?" Lena thought for a moment. "I'll teach them not to be afraid of fear." Benny growled softly in agreement, his claws resting on the floor that pulsed like skin. The Archseer bowed his head. "Then you're what we hoped for." Outside, the ship's light intensified. From its hull, countless threads of energy shot across the galaxy, touching world after world. Each thread carried a vision of the small girl, her loyal companion, and the homeworld that fought not with hate, but with heart. And on every planet, something shifted. Soldiers lowered weapons. Leaders hesitated before ordering invasions. Even the most brutal species remembered what they had lost, the simple instinct to protect instead of destroy. Back on Earth, the fields grew again. The winds softened. The planet slept in peace for the first time in centuries. But among the stars, the legend grew stronger. They called her the voice of Earth. And the honey badger beside her became known as the first guardian. Years later, in a distant future, an alien child sat beside a fire, listening to the story told by an elder. "Is it true?" the child asked softly. "Did one little girl make the galaxy afraid?" The elder smiled, his eyes bright. "No, little one. She didn't make them afraid. She reminded them of what fear truly is, the kind that keeps you alive, the kind that makes you protect what matters." "And the creature?" the child asked. The elder laughed quietly. "They say it still walks beside her, watching the stars. And when someone forgets respect, when they start thinking power means cruelty, they hear its growl in the dark." The fire crackled. The stars above shimmered like old memories. Far away, in the endless void, two figures drifted through the cosmos. One small and human, one fierce and unyielding. Lena looked at the stars, her voice soft. "They're learning, Benny." The honey badger gave a low rumble, almost like a laugh. "Good," she said with a smile. "Let's keep watching." The stars reflected in her eyes, bright and endless. The galaxy no longer knew fear, it knew wonder.